actually, you can get a universe from nothing without any supernatural shenanigans. That basically, by quantum mechanics and the laws of physics we understand in principle, an entire universe with 100 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars, can come from nothing because its total energy could be zero. And therefore, you don't need to literally violate any laws of physics to create a universe. And no, we don't know that for certain.
Because there are laws, such as gravity, the universe can, and will, create itself from nothing. Spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing. It is why the universe exists, why we exist. It is not necessary to invoke God to light the blue-touched paper and set the universe going.
Some people get upset that we change the meaning of nothing. Most of the religious people who object to my definition of nothing never defined it themselves. What they like to, here's what their definition of nothing is. It's nothing is that from which only God can create something. But, you know, they create this useless definition.
It turns out if you take a bunch of hydrogen and you wait like several billion years, you might just grow yourself some humans.
Well, then how did it get created?
Well, by a very slow process.
Well, how did it start?
Nobody knows how it started. We know the kind of event that it must have been. We know the sort of event that must have happened for the origin of life.
What was that?
It was the origin of the first self-replicating molecule.
Right, and how did that happen?
I told you we don't know.
So you have no idea how it started?
No, nor has anybody.
Nor has anyone else.
So, I don't have an issue with what you do in the church, but I'm going to be up in your face if you're going to knock on my science classroom and tell me that I got to teach what you're teaching in your Sunday school, because that's when we're going to fight.
The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully.
So that's what you think of God.
Richard Dawkins has made some statements that some are considering to be a little bit odd. He essentially defended mild pedophilia. He said, Richard Dawkins, to kind of set the stage, is the evolutionary biologist who is known for being what some consider an outspoken atheist. He told the story to the Times Magazine of England that he was sexually abused when he was a kid. He says that a teacher put his hands in his shorts and that it didn't do lasting harm. And then he said, the exact quote was, "An unidentified schoolmaster pulled me on his knee and put his hand inside my shorts when he was a child. And he said he didn't think that the abuse, which he referred to as mild touching up, did any of us any lasting harm." I guess it wasn't just to him that this was done, it was to some of his classmates as well.
Finally, after, I don't know, it's so long ago, but after months of this platonic questioning every night at youth group, the minister called my mom and dad and said, you know, I think maybe Ben should stop coming to youth group. He's no longer learning about the Bible from me. He is now converting everyone in the class to atheism.
And if you think about it, teaching kids that or allowing the notion that the earth is 6,000 years old to be promulgated in schools, that's child abuse.
When we physicists look in outer space for alien life, we don't look for little green men. We look for type 1, type 2, and type 3 civilizations. A type 1 civilization has harnessed planetary power. They control earthquakes, the weather, volcanoes. They have cities on the ocean. Anything planetary, they control. That's type 1.
A civilization that resembles something out of Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon. A type 2 civilization is stellar. They consume so much energy, they can play with stars. That's, for example, the Federation of Planets in Star Trek. Star Trek would represent a typical type 2 civilization.
They play with stars. They are immortal.
Nothing known to science can destroy a type 2 civilization.
Then we have type 3, which is galactic.
And the empire of Star Wars would correspond to a type 3 civilization. Now, what are we on this scale?
Now, on this scale, are we type 1 that control hurricanes? Are we type 2 that control star systems? Are we type 3 that roam the galactic space lanes? No, we're type 0.
It could come about in the following way. It could be that at some earlier time, somewhere in the universe, a civilization evolved by probably some kind of Darwinian means to a very, very high level of technology and designed a form of life that they seeded onto perhaps this planet. Now, that is a possibility and an intriguing possibility. And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
So Professor Dawkins was not against intelligent design, just certain types of designers, such as God.
When we look at outer space, we see no evidence of type 1, 2, or 3 anywhere.
The transition between type 0 and type 1. And that's where we are today.
And so this transition is perhaps the most important transition of all time. Some people don't want it. They fear this transition because this transition is to a planetary civilization tolerant of many cultures. These are the terrorists. These are the terrorists. In their gut, they fear this because they know they are witnessing the birth pangs of a beginning of a new planetary civilization, and the terrorists want nothing to do with it.
What is terrorism? Terrorism, in some sense, is a reaction against the creation of a type 1 civilization. They don't like the march toward a type 1 civilization. Now, which tendency will win? I don't know. But I hope that we emerge as a type 1 civilization.